Jimuel Pacquiao versus Eman Bacosa Pacquiao. A boxing question that a lot of people are asking at the back of their heads, but nobody want to ask it out loud. You know, who's a better boxer? Who's in it for greatness? Jimuel Pacquiao or Eman Bacosa Pacquiao? Jimuel Pacquiao is Manny Pacquiao's eldest son. I believe he's one of 4 or one of 5 kids that he has with Jimuel Pacquiao, Manny Pacquiao's wife. And Jimuel has been training boxing maybe when he was 19 years old. So around 4 to 5 years, kind of started late. He just had his pro debut at 24, which ended up being a draw. You know, he doesn't really need to box. He has everything that he needs in life, being Manny Pacquiao's son. And by the way, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. So do that for me right now. With Eman Bacosa's situation, you know, he's a little bit more quieter. A lot of people don't know much about him. So that's why he's getting a little bit more media attention now, since he's been boxing professionally for, I think he's 8 fights in, and he's like 8-0, or I think he has 1 draw also. So naturally, Eman Bacosa is gonna be a better boxer since he started way younger and his body is developing as a boxer, unlike Jimuel Pacquiao, where he kind of started a little late, maybe 19, 18 years old, where his body's a little bit more developed. Because it's different when you start a sport at a younger age, your body develops with the sport. A lot of people don't think of that, but it makes a big difference when you start a sport at a very young age, just like Eman Bacosa. And when it comes to who's better now, you have Jimuel Pacquiao's body's who's more developed because he's older than Eman Bacosa. And Jimuel obviously has been training with better coaches, better competition. If you're training in wild card gym, you know, he even said it in his interviews that he has been sparring with high pro level in the wild card gym, and that has, you know, that had helped him a whole lot in his preparation in his first fight. But at the same time, I feel like Eman Bacosa, you know, he started the same way how Manny Pacquiao started, which is from the slums, from the very, very bottom, where he's probably fighting against, you know, raw talent that hasn't been trained as well as the fighters that Jimuel Pacquiao has fought in the past couple years when it comes to sparring and fighting. Because of Jimuel Pacquiao's environment, he's probably a better boxer right now. The fact that he's been hit better, the competition is just more mature compared to Eman Bacosa's situation, where he's just boxing people maybe around his age and, you know, at his local gym growing up. But as of right now, I'll probably say Jimuel is probably better because of his environment. But future-wise, who's gonna have a better future? Shoot, I don't know. We'll talk about it later in this video. But what's the biggest difference between the two of them? It's not mainly about, you know, the skill set, the talent that both of them have. It's mainly of, you know, their overall situation growing up, because that also have a big impact on your future and who you are as a person, your habits, your approach to boxing, your approach to life in general. And obviously, Jimuel Pacquiao had everything that he ever wanted growing up. There was this one video where Jimuel Pacquiao was getting, like, you know, some expensive Cuban chain from Pacquiao, and Eman Bacosa was getting interviewed, and he said that, you know, he's been using the same boxing gloves for the past 6 years. You know, those are 2 different situations. And it seems like Eman Bacosa actually wants to be a world champion in boxing and wants to continue Manny Pacquiao's legacy and carry on that Pacquiao legacy. I don't know if he's going to use, you know, Pacquiao's last name or he's gonna stick with Bacosa because that's his mother's last name. So that will be interesting on what they do moving forward. But I feel like, Jimuel doesn't really need to do boxing. He doesn't have to do anything in life. He has everything. All the investments that Pacquiao has done is obviously gonna go straight to his kids, and Jimuel is one of them, being the eldest. You gotta give Jimuel credit though for the fact that he's actually trying to be a professional boxer, getting up every day, training and getting hit where you're already worth millions of dollars. You were born into wealth. And the fact that you still want to be a boxer and do the same things that your dad did, you got to give him a lot of credit, man, because that takes a lot, like, for you to really, like, all right, bet. Let me see what, let me see how to be a let me see how it feels. Damn, there's a car crash. I don't know if you see that? Jimuel don't need this. He doesn't need to get up every single day and train and get punched in the face when he's already worth millions of dollars. Even Jinky doesn't want that, being a mother. He doesn't want his kids to be out there and getting hit. So I think she might be in favor of, Eman Bacosa being the next Pacquiao child to carry that legacy on instead of one of their kids doing it. So I think that's a win-win for both situations. Because during Jimuel's first fight, she was crying seeing her child getting hit. And I don't think they want him to continue boxing, but at the end of the day, they can't stop him. He got to do what he wants to do, which, again, you got to give him credit for, because he doesn't need to do all these things, man. In Eman Bacosa's situation, it's a lot different because he didn't grow up with Pacquiao. He just met him in 2022 when he was 17 years old. Imagine meeting your father for the first time and seeing him on TV and being this big image, being this big idol that people look up to. And like, yeah, that's my daddy. I've never met him before, but just recently when he was 17 years old in 2022, he just met Pacquiao for the first time. So overall, his approach to life, to boxing, it's a little bit different compared to Jimuel Pacquiao, because Eman Bacosa wants to continue and wants to be a world champion, just like his father. And it's a totally different approach, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, when it comes to Eman Bacosa's situation. And I feel like that's like one of the biggest difference between them two. What's funny? A lot of people are asking the question of like, oh, what if one day, if they continue as boxers and have like a really good career, what if they fight? What if they, Eman Bacosa versus Jimuel Pacquiao? But let's be honest here, like, Manny Pacquiao is not gonna allow that happen. He will shut that idea down faster than Usain Bolt running in Beijing Olympics. He will never ever do that. If anything, they will probably make an agreement that, they will never fight each other. Just like the Klitschko brothers. Apparently, they talk to their mothers like, Mama, we will never ever ever fight each other. You're not gonna have to see us fight. So don't worry about it. But if they ever really, really did fight in the future, hypothetically, man, I think Eman Bacosa might whoop that boy. Just because, no, not in a negative way, but like, it's just because that Eman Bacosa took boxing more serious compared to Jimuel Pacquiao. Jimuel Pacquiao don't wanna, he barely doesn't, he doesn't need boxing, as I mentioned multiple times earlier, where Eman Bacosa, who's really trying to be like, yeah, I'm the next Manny Pacquiao in line in boxing, what's up? Like, that's a whole different mindset. And if they meet 5 years from now, Eman Bacosa is going to be so much more different because of that approach. Mentally, it's just different. Spiritually, emotionally, he's a real boxer compared to Jimuel Pacquiao. Jimuel Pacquiao basically just boxing as a hobby at a high level, at a higher level. So That's like a big difference right there because of the way how they approach boxing. And that's basically everything. I mean, at the end of the day, both of them are carving their own path in life, whether Jimuel Pacquiao continues to become a boxer or is going to take over his dad's investments, or Eman Bacosa trying to really be the next world champion and have that Pacquiao last name at his back and carrying the legacy, which is like amazing. I think a lot of Filipinos would love that, to be honest with you. You know, those Filipino gathering when every time Pacquiao fought, everything shuts down in Philippines. The crime rate goes to zero because everybody want to watch Manny Pacquiao fight. But if you're asking me who's next in line as a boxer, the next world champion in that Pacquiao bloodline, Eman Bacosa has a more realistic chance of doing that, being the next world champion, being, you know, the next pride of the Philippines based on just his talent, his overall approach with boxing. It looks like this guy really loves boxing and he wants to be a world champion. And he got to feed his family too. He got these goals that he want to build his own church and all that stuff. You know, his mother's a pastor. So he when it comes to boxing, Eman Bacosa has a deeper purpose when it comes to boxing compared to Jimuel Pacquiao, which is fair. You know, both of them grew up in a different way. Both of them had different environments growing up. And they probably needed those environments to become who they really are. What about you guys? What do you guys think? Do you guys think Eman Bacosa has a better future compared to Jimuel Pacquiao when it comes to boxing? Let me know in the comment section. By the way, I have this video talking about Filipino-born basketball players are not in the NBA. It should pop up somewhere on your screen right now. So you should go check that out. And I will see you in the next video. Peace.